Go. Recording. Go. Recording. Top left. Let me
Awesome.
know.
All right. I am joined today by Louis. He's going to be my co-host for this course. We worked together on the framework for a lot of it. So if you could quickly introduce yourself so people know who you are, that'd be awesome. And then we'll go over the content.
Sure. So I am Louis, also known as LV. I am one of Arno's business mastery captains. A little bit about me. I started in business and sales when I was 15. Didn't go to secondary education. Didn't go through the university system. Just didn't see the sheer value in it. Grew up wanting to chase money. Was always massively money motivated. Naturally, for me, that path led into sales. So I got into recruitment sales at the age of 15. I'm 24 now. This would be my 10th year in practice. Across multiple channels, I earn north of 6 figures each year. And that's sheerly down to what we're going to be teaching in this course. So that's a little bit about me.
That's awesome, man. So you were in child labor, basically.
Basically, as soon as I got my national insurance number, which you get 3 months before you turn 15, I was already applying to sales jobs.
That's beautiful.
And then a
child
baby-faced
labor
me
success
turned up.
story. Isn't that
Exactly.
That's awesome. Very good.
It still works.
So what I'll do, if that works for you, I got some topics written down that I sort of want your take on. We've discussed this in the past, but just to have it like in a formal setting, and it will shed some light on the courses that I've already recorded, and I think it would, I don't know, just give some more body, more volume, more background to whatever we're talking about. And then we'll go over that, and that will basically conclude this part of the course, and then they can get on to the new module.
Yep, perfect.
Works. Awesome. Let's see. So what was interesting, by the way, because like one of the first things that we go over in the course is like why getting into sales is actually a good idea. And you used an interesting phrase, which was basically you saying, yeah, I was massively money motivated, so naturally that led me into sales.
Yeah.
So why is that naturally? Tell me.
Well, growing up, a lot of the peers that were around me were naturally older than me. I've always felt like I've had a bit of a older head on my shoulders than my actual age. So that meant everyone that was around me was already kind of miles ahead of where I was whilst I was finishing secondary education. So at 15, I had friends who were kind of early 20s, late teens, etc. They had already started their journey. And I noticed the ones that was wearing the nice clothes, driving the nice cars, doing the nice things that most people want to do at a young age. It just made me curious. What are you guys doing? And how do I do that? Lo and behold, these guys came up similar to the way I came up. You know, it was you hustle or you don't make no money. So they didn't have an educational track. They didn't particularly go to university, but some of them did go through the college system. These guys were in financial sales, insurance, car sales, estate agency, recruitment. And a common theme was that these are all sales industries. Everyone else that I knew who had got into labor work, etc., working on site, that just was never my forte, of going to work dirty and coming home with rugged hands, etc. I knew there had to be a better way of using my brain. So naturally, having conversations with people around me, I'm a salesman. Okay, what does that mean? I didn't know what it meant, so I just jumped into the deep end and found my own way. Really and truly, you have to fail in this industry. I've learned, especially at the start point. There's no point trying to be perfect from the get-go. It's not going to happen. So that's basically what I've done, man. I applied to every sales job there was, and I fell into recruitment. As a matter of fact, it wasn't by choice that I became a headhunter. It was every sales role that I could apply to, whether it was a estate agency or insurance. I tried to be a broker and trader a few times, and they weren't interested in the rugged 14, 15-year-old knocking on the door. So recruitment was the lucky one that took me in.
I can see that. And then like why? Because a lot of people listening in, like we got quite a few young people, students, and one of the most often asked questions I get is like, hey, let's say 15. Is it even possible? Will people take me serious, et cetera, et cetera? So how did you handle that? That's interesting.
Well, I've always been confident. I think that's number one. You can't teach that,
No.
but you can work on that on yourself. By yourself, go in the mirror, record yourself, and that's one thing I was always quite keen on. It's just always be big on personal development, even way before things like online platforms like what we have here with the real world. It was a lot tougher back then. So for me, I was always looking critically at myself and how I can be better. And I just noticed communication skills was always out trumping everything else. You can have experience, you can have gift of the gab, but if you haven't got communication skills at its most basic form, those very soft skills that everyone uses, then you're not going to go very far. So I was turning up at 15 to interviews and kind of panel meetings and you name it. And there would be guys who were 17, 18, 19, but they didn't have a clue. They didn't show up with the aesthetic. They didn't look right. There's a kind of a natural look that goes with the corporate environment. You go into your local city and you look at the guys who are working in the banks and the places that are making big money. They look a particular way. Their hair is nicely kept. That they're cleanly shaven, etc. They don't look messy. They're wearing a nice suit, etc. And that was where my allure came from. So I mirrored that, and that's one thing which I've used constantly throughout my journey, is that mirroring aspect of not fake it till you make it, but you have to be who you want to be before you get there. You don't become the millionaire and then get the millionaire mindset. You don't become the CEO then get the CEO mindset. So you have to be who you want to be way before you even it comes to fruition. So that was one thing in my head. I was turning up at 15, 16 to interviews and blowing guys who are 5 years older than me out the water sheerly because I knew how to communicate, knew how to listen, and I looked the part, and I knew I was going to ultimately half fake it till I made it. But I was fearless. I was going there. I was willing to be adaptable, willing to learn, wanted to hear criticisms. I wasn't fearful of asking the question, how do I become better at the end of those interviews? When they would tell me no, why is it a no? How do I come back and actually get a yes next time? And naturally, they love that. Anyone at a young age who wants to develop and learn styles, go and demonstrate that you can listen, demonstrate that you want to be there, and someone will take the risk on you.
And what you mentioned the importance of communication skills, and then you specifically said you can. It's different than the gift of gab. So tell me how it differs, because people get this wrong all the time.
Gift of the gab means you can probably just talk about anything. You can sit there and you can just ramble on with your friends. Communication skills, for me, I believe the number is, I think it's 80% of all human communication is non-verbal. It's one thing talking, but then there's more to it. There's the body language, there's the pitch and tonality nuances, there's mirroring somebody, and being able to actually listen is a large part of communication as well. And that's what I mean by gift of the gab. Everyone can ramble on. You ask someone to talk about themselves, they're going to go on for 20 minutes, but where's the value? And that's what I mean by communication. Look at the other nuances, not just speaking.
So you're saying communication is like back and forth?
For me, I've always been data driven, not in the sense of spreadsheets, but I want to gather as much information as possible before I start opening my mouth. I want to make sure I'm going to deliver some value, whether I've just made it up on the spot and I've spun it to you, or it's something I've done my due diligence on beforehand. And that's what enabled me at a young age. I knew if I was going to an interview, who they was. I'd done my due diligence on who I was meeting, the company, their background, their culture. I'd get up the company's house and look at kind of their revenue numbers, etc. I'd know everything about the company, because ultimately I've done that a couple of hours beforehand. It isn't something I'm spending weeks on and and days on doing my due diligence. Just quickly get to a quick download of who these guys are, what they do, go in there and be the person who I think they need me to be in order to get what I want.
I see. And then because the interesting thing about sales in general is that the stereotype is the dude that puts his foot in the door and just overloads you with information. Super annoying. That's why salespeople are annoying. I mean, they don't shut up, and and they don't listen either, which is the worst part. Like, and if I summarize communication skills in, I don't know, I think it's more listening than it is talking. I think.
I agree. 100%.
So you get into sales, and then one of the things that we talked about is sort of the prospecting aspect of it and the numbers game, which is the unpleasant side of sales.
Yeah.
That's how I want to put it. But how did you roll into that? And is it now easy? Like, how does that work for you?
It never gets easy. That's where a lot of people go wrong, and that's why a lot of people join the game or the industry, and then 3, 6 months, 9 months down the line, they're jumping out of it because they expect, once they understand how it works, for it to become easy. It's never easy. You have to fall in love with the process, and that process means hearing a lot of no's, doing the things that no one else wants to do, putting yourself in them uncomfortable situations, which means people are going to be scrutinizing you. And that's the way you're going to develop. You don't know where your weak points are unless you get tested on it. So just jump into that deep water and learn. As much as it sounds like you're trying to wing it, that's very much how sales goes. You're not going to be able to practice on the sidelines. You don't learn to swim without getting in the water. So that's number one in sales. Get in, and you're going to learn tremendously. It is a numbers game to some degree. For me, I've always said there's kind of two parts to this. One of it is the numbers game aspect. The other part is luck. And what I mean by luck is we create our own luck by doing the numbers. We have to be in front of the masses. I'm not concerned in convincing 99% of my product being the best in the world. I need to find my 1% and be loud enough for them to all hear and see me.
Agree. And then when you were starting out, how does that actually look like? Because you started out like in the recruitment industry.
Yeah.
How does prospecting look like? What do you actually do?
So when you first start in recruitment, you're known as what's known as a resourcer. You go in, you're only finding CVs for a senior. So a senior would go out and they would win business, they would win clients that want to hire your talent. That's someone who's a couple of months in or weeks in, days in, etc. They're only going to trust you to speak to the entry level candidates. So they're going to either gear you up with things like portals, like job boards, etc. But LinkedIn is really going to be your main source. LinkedIn for me is kind of number one to be able to find the talent, because it's the largest professional network in the world. So that is where the outreach comes into it. How to engage with these people. We're not sending walls of text. We're not. And back then it was, pick up the phone and speak to the gatekeeper, convince the gatekeeper you have a call set with this person, or set the urgency, and get them at their desk. You speak to them whilst they're at their desk. Understand you're an inconvenience. Someone's working in a sales floor. They've not got 3, 4, 5 minutes to hear you pitch about your business, who you are, why you're credible. You want to add immediate impact and get another call set in. So it's stages of communication. It's not all at once, blow your load. This is who I am. This is the company I work for. These are the awards we've got. They don't really care, is the bottom line of it. The way I do it, the gatekeeper or receptionist, whoever it might be, hi, is John there? I'm not saying a second name. If they go, oh, John who, then I'll give them the second name. But I'm going to add the familiarity layer that I already know John. John's got a call set with me. Can I speak to John? If they and what happens naturally is over time you'll learn, especially if you're targeting a specific company, that the gatekeepers will change. You'll know the good cop, you know the bad cop. The good one leaves at 3 o'clock. The bad one starts at 5 in the evening. That's how it goes. So you pick your times. You just learn. And as I said, the only way you do that is by actually getting in the water and swimming. So that's what we'll do. As soon as we get through to the candidate, it's John. My name's Louis. I'm a headhunter. No, I've caught you at a bad time. When can we speak? They know what a headhunter's there to do. They know I'm trying to displace them. They know I'm going to try and move them. It's a yes or no at that point. Later on, if they say yes, I can sit there and can tell them my credentials. I can tell them who I am and the company I represent, all that great stuff. But initially, I just need that yes or no. Is it worth us speaking? If it's a no, it gives me more questions. I can call you back later on because I've got your number. I'm still going to come back and ask you more questions. So that's how we've done it. How we would get those numbers is simply do a search. You can do it on Google, do it on LinkedIn, consultant, recruitment, etc. And it's going to bring you back hundreds of people to get in contact with.
So what you said was you talk to the gatekeeper, and you get through to the guy or girl.
Yeah.
And you said that these people don't have obviously unlimited time, nor do they have the desire to really speak to you for 5 minutes.
No,
they're busy. What I see especially this is in DMs, I see this all the time, and it you'll see that this translates into everything. Yeah. People just completely, write their whole Lord of the Rings novel about their descent, and no one gives no one cares. Like first,
you're not reading it.
No, first you need to sort of get, I don't know, buy in, get permission.
Yeah, the level of interest. The level of interest. You want to. The first thing you do before you start selling is start to gauge information. The first piece of information you want is it worth me engaging with this person?
Yeah. That
will start with, is this person a decision maker first and foremost? Can they give me a yes? Once you've got that, you want to gauge, is there a level of interest from this person? Are they going to buy from me? Now you can do that on a scale of 1 to 10. A low is a maybe, if, or but. The higher ones is they're biting your hands off, which is very bloody rare. But you want to establish that very quickly. So you want to, that first line, my outreach, even to the most senior guys in the States who are management consultants on $2 million basic salaries, they're the guys that I move in today's market. I'm not sending them no wall of text. It's straightforward, straight line.
Yeah.
This is what I'm going to do. Is it worth us having a conversation about this? Yes or no? If it's a no, okay, who can I speak to? Who can you recommend that I would engage with? Because this is somebody's cup of tea. It might not be yours, but who else would you recommend that I engage with? And lo and behold, you do that in large numbers, you actually get some fruit coming from the trees.
And it's quicker as well.
Yeah.
And in terms of like styles, we have a similar style where I'm genuinely going over all the different things I've sold, but every single time it starts with a very quick thing. Like, is there a match? Are you interested in this? And then you go from there. It's not like, let me do my whole pitch, 15 minutes, and then see, did you like it? That's never happening.
We've all had the sales calls, the PPI sellers or the insurance guys. Everyone's susceptible to a cheesy salesman these days, and there's certain nuances of that are massively dead. The one thing that isn't dead is the cold calling, picking up the phone. No, everyone is terrified of cold calling. So if you are one of the finite few like myself and yourself, Arno, who are picking up the phone still, we're head and shoulders above everybody else, because they're sitting there, they're sending out 10, 20 emails thinking that's enough, waiting weeks for a response, and then they've got a lead, they're chasing up on that one. It's too small. You're not doing enough. So yeah, picking up the phone is still huge, but the old days of picking up on a cold call and just trying to sell them anything, they're dead. You have to be more consultative. You have to ask the questions. We need data to sell. The only way we're going to gauge data as a human being is asking fruitful conversations and asking the right questions. So that's how I sell. It's not, I've got shoes, do you want to buy some shoes? And as you said, you might not have no feet. You're in the complete wrong ballpark. The first question you want to ask is, are you in a market to buy shoes, potentially?
Yeah.
No. Okay, why not? Well, I ain't got no feet. Well, okay, let's buy some studs. Let's buy some socks that's going to cover the amputation marks, right? Exactly. So things like that, right? We're going to continue asking questions. And no doesn't mean no. It means you're selling the wrong product.
I agree. And then you sort of started out prospecting by phone.
Yeah.
These days, I mean, I see a lot of prospecting done by email, by DM.
Yeah.
You sort of touched on this before, and the main issue in my view is that every single one person on the planet can send an email or a DM. So you're competing with the world, which is, that's a lot of people. And then I personally think it's fine to use it as, I don't know, like a crutch or however you want to call it, but it shouldn't be the only thing you depend on.
Well, you can use emails. I still use emails. I'm not sitting here crucifying emails and saying they're redundant and they're not used for DM. I'm not big on social media outreach. That's just not the market that I'm in. There's no use for it. I'm not reaching out to CEOs and C-suite guys on Instagram. It just wouldn't work. But I still send an email, and it's going to be very brief. And then what I'm going to do, it gives me a reason to call them. John, did you receive my email? No, well, look, I reached out because I do this. It's an open. It gives you a reason to speak to this person. Find an excuse to call them. And then the gatekeeper, what do you want to speak about? Well, I sent John an email. I just want to see if he's got it. It gives you a reason to actually get on the phone. You've actually got a justification to be speaking to this person now. Speak to them.
Yeah, I think it's perfect for that reason. I sold to both consumers and businesses, and when I used to sell to consumers, it was usually because I put out some information and they sent in their lead, like they wanted the information, so I could call back, which is easy, right? I didn't call people out of the phone book. That would be kind of inefficient. And when I sold businesses, I remember the last time I did this, it's not too long ago, I just sent out emails. The email was like, I don't know, 2-3 lines, basically saying, this is what I do. I help people get more clients. Would that be of interest to you? If they said yes, I'd give them a call.
I'll say yes.
It's amazing.
Yes.
Yeah. Right?
You're a business owner, you get an email, yes or no, I can get you leads. Do you want to talk about it? If you're a business owner and you take your company seriously, you're probably going to say yes as well. A 10-minute conversation. Everyone has 10 minutes somewhere.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't care.
No one dies.
No. And they gave you permission, which is awesome. So now I'm calling.
Come back in a couple of months. Their number's not going to change. They're not going anywhere. They're probably still going to be the same CEO at the same company. You've now got the familiarity. John, we spoke 3 months ago. Just checking in. You had a chance to think about those leads? How's business been? How's conversion rates been? Who's currently giving you the leads? Oh, that's cool. I know these guys. Build that familiarity. Then in 6 months' time, you call again. You keep going and going and going. A no doesn't mean no forever, guys. Pick up the phone and keep speaking to them. Keep chipping away. You've got to do it in numbers. Back in the day when I first started, it was 75 calls a day, 2 hours minimum on the phone. And even then, there'll be days you absolutely flatline and get nothing. So that's the sort of numbers you guys really need to be aiming for. Is above 50 at the very least.
Yeah, I completely agree, and it should be doable. Like in terms of if you got an image of who you're trying to sell to, you should be able to find these people, because if you can't find them, it's very hard to sell to them. Right? It's rough. And when I sold real estate, that was one of the things that makes it hard. Like, you don't have a list of people that are going to sell their home today. You know, that doesn't really happen. So, you know, you have to deploy some tricks and some lead generation and all that other good stuff. But in general, it's good to get some sort of buy-in or permission to sell, and then you can just you can bridge the gap really quickly by phone. Phone is awesome. I agree. Yeah. Phone or video call like we're doing now, whatever, doesn't matter. But
exactly. Or go and meet them face to face. There's nothing wrong with going to meet these people. No one does that. COVID ruined that for a lot of people. And yet again, you suggest going. You know, for me, I still take guys out for drinks. Let's go to a bar. Let's get a drink. You know, let's go talk. That still works, man. It still works. It's sending emails and it's very wishful. You have no control over it. That is absolute anarchy. Like, you're going to drive yourself crazy just sending out emails. You don't know if they're going into the spam folder. You don't know if they're reading them. You might be able to track that sort of stuff. But you don't know how it's being received. Now, I can do that over a video call. I can do that face to face. You can even do it over a telephone call. You can hear the pitch and tonality changing in someone's voice. You can't do that by an email. You're losing and sacrificing a lot of control because you're giving too much credibility to sending emails out. Use it as a tool to get you on the phone, but do not disregard going face to face, shaking someone's hand, reading their body language. These are huge things that you're not going to get by sending emails out. Yeah,
we're pro email, but don't use that as your only tool.
That's not your only tool. There's human beings. That's one thing AI is never going to be able to replace, is that human element of engagement. Recruitment is going to get absolutely smashed by AI anytime soon, but they're not going to be able to replace that human element of talking about someone's career. What I do is moving somebody, the very thing that's going to pay for the clothes they wear, the food they eat, the car they drive. No, a machine's not going to replace that anytime soon. So the people that will adapt will move with the times. The people that don't will drown. But that's one thing that will never change. It's always going to be human engagement. Being able to speak to people will always trump everything else that comes out in terms of technology.
I agree. And when one of the things that I cover as well is frame. So I imagine that to be quite important, especially in your field where you're talking to people. So okay, let me give you some contrast. If I talk to a consumer and when I was in real estate, it wasn't hard to get the expert frame because it was something I knew all about and they knew nothing about, right? When I talk to business owners, I established a frame very quickly that I'm the expert. With you're not talking to dumb people exactly, right? You're talking to pretty smart cookies. How do you handle that? Like, how do you keep frame? What frame do you use? How does that work?
So that's a culmination of things. It's well naturally I'm communicating to you differently than I would with a friend. I'm an East London boy, so I'm what's known as traditional Cockney by nature. That means, I drop my T's. I don't really finish my sentences properly. It's just what I've known. But I know when I'm picking up the phone, I'm speaking to corporate clients. I'm speaking to people who are earning higher six figures, how they communicate. And this is that mirroring piece that I was talking about earlier on. Know your demographic, know who you're engaging with, and don't become them, because authenticity is still important. People can still hear that I'm from East London, breaking through kind of the mask that I put on. But that's important. You have to know who you're engaging with. But then it comes down to pitch and tonality. I'm not getting on the phone to these C-suite guys and being Jack the Lad. I'm not being boisterous and playful. I'm setting a very solid tone. I'm also slowing down my speech drastically, making sure what I'm saying is impactful and just delivering nothing but value. I'm not sitting there and talking about the company I work for and all the other great things. They know what I'm here to do. And 99% of the people in my field, they're speaking at 100 miles an hour. They're not really focusing on the key elements of what this person wants to hear. I'll get on that phone call, I'm speaking slowly, my pitch and tonality is really well dialed in, and I'm asking them questions. I'm curious about who they are, but I also know their industry quite well, so I can actually engage with them on these engagements, and that's what's going to set me apart from kind of the try hard in the industry, and somebody actually knows energy transition within the management consulting industry in America. I know what I'm talking about, so that's huge. You don't have to spend 10 years to be an expert. Do your due diligence, know who you're engaging with, and be that person. I don't go to a client who can't, spend hundreds of thousands of pounds in a Porsche. I'd get there by a black taxi. And you don't go to the ultra high-end enterprise client not looking your best. Know who you're engaging with, and be appropriate to that situation. I think that's where a lot of people go wrong. They come in with this authenticity piece of just trying to be themselves, which you still can be, but brush up. A lot of people are rough around the edges. They need a bit of polishing, and that's huge. Be somebody who they can respect. And I find when people network, they're not looking, downwards. They're looking either laterally or upwards. So you have to be that person to make them want to engage with you. And that, for me, I was doing the same thing at 15. At first, they wasn't listening to me. I had a squeaky voice. I looked like a baby. In the end, I was calling people up and I was saying, I'm one of the vice presidents I'm one of the senior consultants I was just a resourcer. But you're setting the frame. And yet again, that's a little bit of that fake it till they make it stuff, which I don't really agree with anymore. But it was appropriate at the time and it worked. So that's how I set the frame. I let them know just throughout the tonality how I'm speaking, how I'm engaging, my communication skills. The fact I'm listening and relaying back what they've said is going to go a million miles. A lot of people just go 100 miles an hour and just ramble.
Where do you think that comes from? Why do people do that?
Fear. They're nervous. They don't really know how to handle the situation because they've probably not been in it too much. As I said, the only way you're really going to hone in your skills with anything that we drop in this course, is actually by going to do it, jumping into that deep, scary, dark water and actually just paddling, finding your feet. You'll get there eventually. There's just a natural term that any sales company works, especially if it's telephone based. It's fear of the phones. People are scared of rejection. They hate being told they're wrong. And that often is enough for people to not do the work in the first place. And then ultimately what that does is it affects their performance. They're relying on emails, they're relying on other forms of contact, and it doesn't work.
And in terms of rejection, how did you handle that when you started out?
It's tough. The emotional roller coaster that comes with business and sales is tremendous. The highs are tremendously high. You're going to have a million friends around you when you're billing and you're making loads of money, but the lows are very, very low. It's lonely. Yep. No one wants to know you. They don't want to know the loser who's not made no money in a few months. It's an emotional roller coaster. The quicker you can realize that and start to remove those key nuances and those emotions from the game and just fall in love with the process instead of the result, that's when you realize the money's a byproduct of doing the process right and just doing it. The fear element, it's never not scary. If I'm speaking to a C-suite guy, I don't know if he's going to be good cop or bad cop, but I have to do it. I know why I'm doing it. I know my purpose, and I ultimately know there's another 100 of you guys if you don't like me. So it's a long journey. How did you
figure out, in terms of like the tonality, the pitch, the speed? How did you figure that out?
Engaging with people, the people who are doing well. Okay, well, if I've joined a company at 15 years old, who's the current top biller? Well, they're not going out every Thursday and Friday getting drunk. They're not partying. They're not going crazy. They're quite well refined. They're working extremely long hours. They speak a certain way. They carry themselves a certain way. Their body language is like this. How they engage, and then you start to realize, well, they're the ones that are making a lot of money. They're doing something right. It might not be the cool trend hip thing, but there's nothing cool in being broke. So you have to learn very quickly, be who you have to be to make the money. And that's how I learned. Going in, what I'd do at any place I'd ever go to, whether it was a client of mine or a firm I was working for, go to the brightest person in the room and learn off of them. Why are you doing so well? What are the key nuances that's made you successful? It doesn't have to just be all your clients. It can be all your peers. Why are you good? And ultimately, you'll find your own feet. You'll develop your own style that works for you. The way I sell is a culmination of tens of people that I've encountered over my journey over 10 years. It's not just a Louis style. It's a blend of everyone I've came across that I've gave credit to, that I've seen do well. It's not the people that are penny pushing and kicking tires. There's no similarity between the way I'd sell and the way they would sell.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it's the same for me. Like you pick up stuff from different people. And like what helped for me was really listening back to what I was doing and what I was saying, and being horrified at how bad I was.
Yeah.
Holy shit! Like
Role play, voice notes, the mirror. Voice notes are horrible. No one sounds good when they listen to themselves
No.
back. We all hate it. We all cringe.
Mhm.
But you'll listen to yourself and think, God, I sound dreadful. I wouldn't
Yeah.
listen to that guy. I sound like the cheesy PPI guy that's going 100 miles an hour off the script.
Yes.
Now, you can put a script in front of me today. I'm going to be able to read it in a way that sounds natural.
Yeah.
So
me
it's
too.
those key nuances there. Listen to yourself, record yourself, be critical, ask somebody else to listen to this, and get feedback from other people around you. You really need to be conscious of where you are and actually be respectful of that as well. You have to earn your stripes. And the only way you're going to do that is by being critical, looking at where you're going wrong, and figuring out what you can do differently to become better. If you're not going to do that, you're going to be one of those guys that try to coast, and sales is not forgiven. You're not going to coast in sales. You have to constantly look at further development.
True. Yeah, and especially in the beginning, we get a recurring question that we get. It's like, hey, I'm in sales or I'm in an office, and there's a couple guys that are doing really well, and they're just relaxed, and they're just coasting or something like that. And in the beginning, it's even hard to see how bad you are and what you're doing wrong. Like you think you're doing the same thing, but you're not. You're really not. Like you're not even close. So yeah, self-reflection is I think is vital, and it'll only make you better, man. Like sales is an awesome power to have.
Superpower.
Serves you well in almost every endeavor you can imagine.
Exactly.
That's good. So in terms of like one part of the course is like prospects and leads and clients and how to make that distinction. How in your current setup, how do you do it? Like how do you distinguish between those?
Well, in my current setup, I've got tons of automation, things that will do it for me, but I've got guys that have just joined my company. I'm not giving them no automation, giving them no tools. You can't have all the gear with no idea. You have to know the basics. If all these tools are to be stripped away tomorrow, where's that going to leave you in the marketplace of hundreds of thousands of guys who are trying to take the easy route? So for me, there's two ways the industry works. You can be kind of candidate-led or client-led. Candidate-led means you get someone who's really good, go to market with them, market them, and then try and pitch them in that way. Or you go to a client, say, I can get you the right talent. They give the instruction. You then go and find what they're looking for. So how I would do either of that is simply, yet again, it's going to be massively internet powered. This is, stripping back to before you have your own black book of networks you can engage with. You're going to jump online. You're going to do your due diligence in regards to your niche and your market, find out who the key players are. You're going to start engaging with either their staff or the people who are decision makers. So for me, if I want to target XYZ company and I want to work with them, I want to map them out. I want to go online. I want to find out who these people are. And a simple Google search beyond LinkedIn, which is obviously going to be your number one for this, you're going to map out the company. But you can find organization charts all over the internet for especially kind of SMEs and large scale firms, enterprise level firms. They're going to be mapped out in terms of who the organization people are that you want to be engaging with. How that often looks for me is kind of maybe COO, CEO, someone C-level at the very least. Alternatively, it's going to be kind of sales director, managing director, someone running the business. Then I want to engage with them. I'm going to map out 2 or 3 key people at each company, do 50 companies. I've got enough people to engage with over that day. That's how I'm going to do it. But then naturally, you can use things like Lusher, Rocket Reach, Apollo IO. They're going to get you contact details. Whether you want to go the hard route and pick up the phone and speak to a gatekeeper or a receptionist, you can go that route, which still works if you refine your skills, or you can go through Rocket Reach, Lusher, etc. Send them an email, do that in mass, hope that you get the response, and then follow up with a call or book a call in. That works both ways with candidates and clients.
So you start out with like a big pool of people who are your prospects, like potential clients, like at least, maybe potential. You don't know, but at least they
start out by knowing your industry. If I'm going into a market, I want to know who the key players are. Who am I competing against? Who are the people that I'm targeting? Then I'm going to start mapping those guys out. You can't sell.
Very simple. Let's say I sell to mortgage brokers. Now, I'll start out with my pool of mortgage brokers, and they should be pretty easy to find because consumers are able to find them, so you should be able to find them as well. So now I have, let's say, 1,000 mortgage brokers, and now I start doing, I don't know, probably, let's say, email, and then from there on out, I'm trying to get some of them to raise their hand, basically say, hey, I might be interested, or yes, I'm open to talking. And then is that when it becomes a lead?
That's good, because now we're talking about the funnel of kind of what a prospect is through to a potential client and
Yeah.
ad hoc client, someone who buys sometimes. I like that. So there's layers of communication. You don't send to that 100 that list of 100 people one email and then it's done and dusted. If they do get back to you, or they don't. You don't go to. If you text your friends and ask to go for a beer, right? You don't send them a list of, well, here's the full beer list. Here's loads of restaurants we can go to or bars we can go to. Here's why I like these places. Here's the manager that works there. It's a bit creepy. You tell your friend to fuck off. You're probably going to take my organs. You sound a little bit weird. You go simply, do you want to go for a beer? Question mark. Yes. Okay, where are we going? It's layers of communication, and that's the same goes with business. These people are still human beings; they're not aliens. Do your communication in layers. First stage, drop an email, straight line. Second stage, dropped an email. Just want to make sure it didn't get lost in your inbox. Third stage, sent you 2 emails. Just wanted to follow up. Phone call. I've sent you a couple of emails just to make sure that you've had a look. No, okay, look. Whilst I've got you, let me tell you about who I am, so there's some familiarity. Go.
Yeah. Exactly.
And that's how it goes. You keep doing that, and you keep building that list up. So it might be 50 week 1, but now you've got 100 week 2. Now it's 100 people you can call an email. You've got 150, and they're all at different stages of communication, and you keep following up. No sale happens over the first call. No sale happens over the first email. It's about 8 or 9 engagements before you get to that stage, and that's them establishing credibility. That's establishing if there's an interest in your product. It doesn't happen all at once, and this is where a lot of people go wrong. Is do it in stages, do it in increments of how you engage these people, make it natural, engage them as a human being, because that's who they are. They're still going to go home to their family and they're going to switch off. Engage with them and make them feel comfortable to be that person around you, and naturally they're going to lead you with them to that sale which you're looking for. But don't be chasing the sale. They can read that, especially decision makers. They've dealt with hundreds of you before, and if you're chasing the pound note and you're treating them like a commodity, then you're in big trouble.
Yeah, you're right. They're still human beings, and like I don't care how smart or how dumb they are. People notice when you're trying to get their money. Which I mean, getting their money is fine, but you should be giving something back in value, preferably. But in terms of what I do, what I very much agree with is they're human beings, and I see this all the time where people get butthurt over, I sent 3 emails and he's not responding, and I saw he opened my email. Like, bro, first of all,
tell you your email's not compelling then.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but first of all, like, relax. Like, if you're checking if he opened your email 16th, it's a bit creepy as well. A bit stalkerish behavior. You need more clients or more prospects, whatever. But second of all, if you're getting butthurt, that sort of pisses away every chance you ever get of selling someone, right? No one wants to do business with that dude. No, man. It's never personal. True.
It's never personal. Never, they don't know you. You don't know them. It's not personal. It is strictly business. A lot of people don't understand that until you get into it. They hear people say it's very cliche and rather cringe when people say it, but it's the truth. It's never personal. It's strictly business. If you're not providing value, I have no time to speak to you, man. Come back. I'm going to be open to speaking to you. You're always going to find somebody who's an horrible bastard that just doesn't want to speak to anyone. They're institutionalized and really sad about their life. They're miserable. But 9 times out of 10, if they don't want to speak to you, it's probably something you've done wrong. That's
it's not you. It's not you.
You've got to realize.
Yeah, it's either it's not you, it's something in their life, or it's whatever you're offering, but it's not you. And that for me, that always helped with the rejection part, because you kind of take it personally in the beginning. You do. It's just a thing. Yeah. And then remember, it's never you. No one cares about you except your mama and you. So relax. Hopefully. It's
easier to do it when you run your own business or you're a freelancer. If you're employed and you're a salesperson, you're going to have strenuous sales targets. You're going to have a manager who's probably micromanaging you and who's over your shoulder, who applies a lot of pressure naturally. And there's a very cutthroat nature to sales as well, where if you don't perform, you're gone. So these are nuances that make you a bit of an unethical salesperson. You're just trying to do numbers for numbers' sake. And you're not listening. You're just trying to smash through to say, I've done my 50 calls today. That's not what you're doing it for. As I said, focus on the process. You'd rather the quality conversations over just getting through 50 calls a day. And it's actually going to lead somewhere. For me, if any of my guys weren't making money, It isn't about, okay, now go do 50 calls. That's not necessarily going to generate you the result, but let's look at the quality. Let's look at how we can nurture and develop what you've got currently and hone in those skills. But in most environments, it's quite hard to do that. Sales companies are there to make and do one thing, and that's make money.
Yeah, sure.
Ultimately, you are a bum on a seat. You're there to churn, and you're there to make money. And ultimately, if you're not doing that, then it's quite an uncomfortable environment. So there is a few key nuances that differentiate being a CEO or running a firm doing it and working on a desk in a sales company. It's gonna be tough.
It is. Yeah. Well, I mean, if it wasn't tough, any moron would do it, and then we would be out of a job. So that would be good.
Yeah,
I agree. And then we talked about this as well in terms of scripts. Like I think we were mostly in agreement about this. I used to do scripts for openers. I do script for some objections, and I do close, like for the close, I do scripts, and that's about it. How do you handle that in your business?
Yeah, man. So I tried to let my guys free flow it, and a lot of the guys that I brought in recently have no experience in sales or headhunting. I'm trying to change the mantra on how we'd learn in the environment. I really didn't want to start with scripts. I've asked them to go away and write what you think an approach sounds like and how you're going to have that call, just so I can see where their headspace is at in regards to, how far off the ball they are. But I realized letting them guys wing it themselves, they're overthinking it. They're in their head. Am I saying this right? Does it sound good? And they're putting a pressure on themselves, which make them sound crap, which, it doesn't work. So I said, okay, let's go back to the script. Now I wrote scripts for these guys. I'm not a fan of them myself. I haven't used scripts in a long time, but I have to remember people who don't know things simply don't know, right? You don't know what you don't know. So I wrote a script for these guys, and then I was getting them to read it. And yet again, they sound crap. They're reading a script and it's 100 miles an hour. You can tell they're reading. They're just sitting there looking at something. And they're not actually engaging. They're missing kind of cues from what someone else has said just to ask the next line of questioning and get to the next point. They're not probing. They're not stopping. They're not trying to get engaged. It's going to build that familiarity and that rapport because they're just trying to get through the script. So what I'd done was someone who I engaged with quite heavily in my recruitment business used to be a dancer. And I asked her, how would you learn the sections of dance? You don't go to, right? You don't go in and instantly get the whole dance. And she was like, well, you break it down to sections. You do part 1, part 2, part 3, and you break it down and you continuously do part 1 until you've got part 1 smashed. You then do part 2, you then combine part 1 with 2 and then do 3. And that's how we were doing it. So I actually took that and implemented it to the way I was training my guys. And we'll just do part 1, the open, who we are, just a very brief, this is why I'm calling. And then I'll work with them on that pitch, on that tonality. So the pitch is absolutely useless unless you know how to use it. The delivery point on how to slow down on certain words, add impact on this word, elevate your pitch here, drop your pitch there. These nuances here, I was doing that with one of the guys who work for my firm. And instantly, within 30 minutes of doing this together, the pitch sounds 10 times better. He's building his confidence up. And it's just, we make it lighthearted, we make it a joke. And you can do this on your own. As I said, write your pitch, listen to it first time you're trying to go absolutely free flow, read it all off the bat. Then you'll realize how crap you are. Then just do the first segment, then do the second segment, combine the two, keep doing the 2 until you absolutely nail it. Then keep going on. There's no point in any of us writing you scripts and getting you great at writing scripts and knowing kind of what to say unless you know how to say it. That's the most important part. You can say that the most amazing stuff, but if you're rambling it at 100 miles an hour, they're not listening. They can't hear you. You're not giving them anything to engage with.
I remember a guy, I was training him, and he was talking to a lady, and the lady, he's doing the script, and the lady kept trying to interrupt him by giving him information. And then at a certain point, he says, lady, if you could be quiet for 1 second so I can finish my script. He literally said that.
Oh, God.
So I can finish my script. That was perfect.
Well, it's similar to, I had an insurance call, life insurance call the other day. I'm getting to that point where they think I need life insurance. So they're calling me constantly, banging off the phone. And it's, hello, is this Mr. Vella? Yeah, of course it is. That we can speak. let's hear what they say. I always give these guys time. I want to hear these guys pitch. I always give PPI callers and sales callers. I think it's quite funny and humorous. I also try to give them some advice. They never hear it, right? But,
we just for 1 second. Let me interrupt you for 1 second. We talked about Boiler Room today in the room. That is an awesome movie, isn't it?
Amazing movie. Amazing movie. I always tell these guys, go on and watch your sales films. They're very cringe and cliche, but one that's really good for hype. Anytime I had a bad day or a bad week in sales, you go and watch Wolf of Wall Street, you watch Boiler Room, you watch Glengarry, Glen Ross. These movies here, Always Be Closing, these things like that. It's absolutely amazing. It gets you back on track. And also, you see the film differently when you're a salesperson. When you understand what they're doing in those moments, the NLP stuff, the questioning, the probing, the tonality shifts, these nuances are absolutely great. And it actually makes watching it a little bit better, I find, because you feel akin to the person. You actually got that familiarity with the person in the movie. So go watch your sales films, guys. You're not just going to watch it for entertainment value. You're going to be learning some stuff from them as well.
Yeah. So I interrupted you, but now I can't remember where I interrupted you.
I was sent out a PPO or an insurance.
Oh, yeah, the insurance call. Yeah.
And I'm speaking to him. I'm trying to stop him. Slow down. Stop. And he's just going, do you own a home? I'm a smoker. And you're not even getting the information from me. You are just going through the script. Stop it. I say to them, look, you've got 1 minute. Speak to me. And I think that 1 minute really does put the pressure on them. That they start trying to sprint out everything they've got on the paper. At the end of the course, said, look, you've not sold me. And the reason you've not sold me is because you sounded crap. You've got to be a bit brutal. They hang up themselves. They hang up themselves. And I've done that. I think you've done it as well, right?
Yeah.
The call goes so bad, you just think, I've absolutely blown this. Time for me to abort mission, go again. And that's often what happens with these guys, simply because they've got a script which is actually information gauging. They're probing, but they're just doing it at 100 miles an hour, and it's just not registering. All I can hear is your strong accent from whatever corner of the world you've called me from, and it's you're absolutely paying and spraying at me, and it's not effective whatsoever. Every shot is missed.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. So scripts, I mean, they have their place.
They're useful. They're so powerful, but you have to know how to use them.
Yeah, I completely agree. In terms of, well, that's a nice segue when I say I agree. One of the lessons that I also recorded was always agree, always agree. And people get that wrong all the time. But they say, well, what if I'm right? Well, it doesn't matter if you're right. How, because the guy that sort of worded that for me was Grant Cardone.
Yeah.
So he's a very colorful individual, has good sales stuff.
Yeah.
And he had this principle of always agree. How do you see that?
100%. So that's one of the kind of the more basic forms of neurolinguistic programming. You know this, Knox knows this. Anyone in sales at some point is going to hear someone say NLP. One of the most basic forms of NLP is that nuance there, the psychological nuance of what happens when you agree with somebody or make somebody agree with you. So there's two ways you can do that. Is, you would agree with me if I say, and I'll go to finish my statement. 9 times out of 10, people just go in autopilot mode and agree with you. Or if they're making a statement piece, I agree with you on that. We're on the same page. What you're doing by doing that is you're building that familiarity, you're building that trust. We're on the same team, we're on the same side, we agree on the same things. So you're building that up gradually throughout a conversation, trying to get as many kind of lineal basic yeses and agreement pieces as possible before you hit them with your close, the heavy stuff. If I can provide you value by kind of find you staff, would you agree that, it's worth us, working together on this or partnering on this? Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. But they've already said 10 yeses before I've got to that point. And the way we do that is by agreeing with people, and you can do it by agreeing with what they're saying, or you say the open-ended question of, I think you'd agree with me when I say, if I can come in and provide value, it's worth us partnering. Totally. Who's going to say no to that? So that is huge. It's so empowering. Don't be a robot. Yet again, don't be scripted in how you say it. Everything we teach you in these courses is going to be massive on delivery, how you deploy it. If you're just sitting there trying to agree with everything they're saying, they're going to pick it up.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Respect these people enough to understand they're smart to be in their position. And if you're engaging with them, they're probably going to be a decision maker, which means don't be a fool.
Yeah. Obviously, that's true. Don't be robotic. And even in terms of, I remember, I used to get the objection a lot of it's too expensive, especially from consumers when I sold that. And even then, So yeah, I completely get what where you're coming from. I understand. I'm with you. And then from there on out, you can move on. But if you say no, that's not true. No, you're wrong. Well, now you're gonna have a bad
No,
time.
it's not too expensive. I sell loads of these all the time. Well, now you're arguing with me. Now we're arguing. You're not going to sell me. You've offended me a little bit, and actually, I want to come down to your office and strangle you. So you're not going to win from doing that. Just accept. And as a matter of fact, look, I know it's expensive, but let me just ask you a question, Arno. What do you typically pay for shoes?
Yeah.
Go back to probing. This person might not be qualified for your product. They might just not be right for you. So that, okay, they give you kind of a half no. It's a bit too expensive. Well, okay, what do you typically pay? No, I agree. It's massively expensive. We're in the upper parts of the market. That's who we're targeting. I assume that would be you. What do you typically pay? Ask the question. A no doesn't mean no. Okay, now I fucked it. Let's get off the call and go again. Continue to ask questions. We need that data.
Yeah, I agree. So once again, I agree. So, and then in terms of data, that is probably the last point I want to bring up with you. So we spoke quite a bit about like getting information, probing, qualifying. I'm a massive fan of constantly qualifying, seeing like are we still on the same wavelength. In terms of like information gathering, like where in the sales process would you put that?
From the very start, from the very beginning. We can't sell anything in today's climate without knowing and empowering ourselves with enough information to go back, do the active listening piece, and relay the same information they've shared with us. That's how you're going to find success. You're not going to sit there and bombard them with your products that you think are killer. You don't know if this person agrees with you or not, if that product is applicable to this person's lifestyle. You have to ask the questions. Listen to what they're saying. Engage with them. Same way you would if you was to recommend a restaurant or a particular outfit or whatever it is to your friends. You want to be credible with what you say, otherwise they're not going to ask you again. It always feels good when someone comes to you and asks, "Oh, what restaurant do you recommend?" Or, "You know what, I like that jacket. Where can I get a jacket similar?" Whatever. Cool. You ain't going to tell them, "Okay, go to Lidl." Okay, you can get, it's a great restaurant, but actually don't go there. Go somewhere crap. Exactly. You want to be credible to that degree. So we can only sound credible by asking the questions. If someone goes, "Oh, what restaurant would you recommend?" Well, what cuisine are you looking for? Are we talking, Asian? Are we talking Indian? Where are we going with this? Is it Italian? You don't know what to recommend because it might not be the sweet spot of what they're looking for. "Oh, you said you like my jacket, but what jacket was you talking about?" Yeah. Okay. Oh, so it was the Parker one with the da. Okay, well, you can get this, but there's also you can't sell without getting information. That's what I mean, and that starts at the very start of the conversation, whether that's inbound or you've outbound contacted these people. You're not selling nothing until you've got information from these guys. As soon as you start doing that, you'll see a massive uplift in how many sales you actually convert. It
also makes it clear that you're actually interested in what they're saying.
Yeah.
Because once again, that's the most annoying thing that people have of salespeople. Like, you're not even listening to me. Like, I'm actually trying to do something, but you're like bulldozing me. Super annoying. Like, let's first see. It's similar to like doing a date and then just bulldozing the girl with information, hoping she'll sleep with you that way. That rarely, if ever, works. Like, I haven't tried it. Well, no, let's not. No, no, let's not do that. Don't do that one. No, but it's a conversation. It's a dialogue. It's not just me monologuing, hoping like at the end you're so exhausted. Okay, I'll do it.
Yeah,
not talking you into anything. And I think that might be, in terms of like module 1. What if I had to get one thing across? It would probably be that selling is not so much you convincing someone that your product is superior. It's much more finding the right person for your product and helping them buy it. That makes way more sense to me.
Yeah, 100%. As I said at the start of the call, don't try to appeal to the 99%. It's one-way ticket to hell. You're going to break your own heart doing that. Find your 1% and engage with those people. There's still going to be large amounts of no within that environment, but your chances of finding a yes are extremely higher than just shooting in the dark.
Yeah, I agree. So let's see. In terms of like talking points, that's the stuff I wanted to go over with you today. You think we missed anything? Anything that you wanted to go over that I didn't?
Not particularly. As I said, we can do this anytime. I'm always happy to make time to have these conversations. So anything that we might uncover moving forwards that we might have missed, I'm always happy to jump on a call, just jump into it again. So
no, we'll be doing this again for the next module, like the next batch of lessons. Now, in terms of like for the people watching this, it in a way what you saw is very meta. So not only have you seen us talking about the points, what you've also seen, if you've been paying attention, is that we are doing what we're trying to teach you. So we're actually having a conversation. I'm not bulldozing you. I'm actually interested in what you have to say.
Yeah.
I'm not doing like Scatman John, like talking 100 miles an hour. It's all. And in terms of like the structure of the call, you got the introduction, then you get the setup where you basically talk them through like what's going to happen, and then we go over qualification, and then we close off. All of these things will be applicable in phone calls and sales presentations and everything, man. It's I don't know, it's a common thread in your entire life if you get this right. And it
exactly
just
that.
Because we haven't like done a lot of rehearsal for this. Well, we haven't done any rehearsal for this, so
that's the point, though, right? It was all natural. We knew what we were speaking about, so it was just a conversation. It wasn't forced. There wasn't no script, and that's the point. It is know your market, know your niche, speak to the people that are important for you to speak to, and it is just a conversation like the one me and Arno have had, where we're comfortable, we're relaxed, and we're listening to each other, and we're providing value based on what each other is saying. So that's the key takeaway from this.
Sales can be very fun. Like if you get into a groove and you hit it off with someone, you get these conversations all the time. It is very fun. Like, yes, it can also be extremely unpleasant. But that's part of life. That it is what it is. But it's also like these things. It's a lot of fun as well.
Exactly.
So,
agreed.
Thanks a lot for being here, man. I do appreciate
it.
We'll see you on the next one.
On the next one.
Awesome.